We have to adjust to taking our mental wellness just as seriously as we would take our physical wellness.
The Chamber of Commerce. I believe that through hard work and perseverance, many things can be done.
You know, I'm getting to a point where I want to see the young people take the mantle, take the light, take the torch, whatever they got to take, and run with it. 16, 19 on down to today, we need to know history. And we need to teach it. We need to show the students and teach them about what happened in this country. You know, we can't sweep this under the rug.
We are here working together, and as Dr. King says, we're all in this boat together. We're doing great things, but we still have a far piece to go.
Good evening, and welcome to a new edition of Urban Sentinel Live. I'm your host, Reggie Kearney, and I want to welcome you to Monday nights, and that's what we do on Monday nights is Urban Sentinel Live. And tonight I have a good friend of mine. He's been here before, Dr. James Dula, a community activist, the man with the plan, the go-to man. So how you doing tonight, Dr. Dula?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me again. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm glad you agreed to come on tonight so we could spend, a little time talking about some of the current events that are going on in our community. And I think earlier when we were offline, we were talking about President Biden's executive order today, limiting ghost guns and making sure that they're selling guns that are registered and doing background checks. And the NRA had a fit over that. And as we know in the news, this year in the news, we've noticed an uptick in school shootings, and the common denominator for those shootings, as far as a gun was concerned, is the fact that gun is a ghost gun. Mm-hmm. So what are your thoughts about that, Dr. Dula?
Well, first of all, once again, thank you for having me. And it has been a very interesting time in our world this past couple of weeks. But we all should be aware that ghost guns are certainly a detriment to our community and to our country. And it's almost a tale of two cities. Mm-hmm. I can remember reading by Dr. Du Bois when he said that, for African Americans, we have to learn to live with our two-ness, one in white society, one in black society. But when I stop and I think about ghost guns and those in Congress that profess the use of guns, but do not acknowledge the fact that it's the guns on our streets is killing people, and you turn right around and join the NRA and endorse their platform, but the NRA in turn opposes the ban of ghost guns. I just don't get it. I mean, common sense would tell you, and I think if my grandmother was alive today, she'd be scratching her head saying, what is going on? Mm-hmm. We know that guns are the scourge in our community. And, people, they used to say guns don't kill people, people do. Well, the result is the same. People die. And when we don't really address such thing as ghost guns head on, then we are really not facing that part of society that is causing so many deaths in our society. Many people may not even know that ghost guns you can order over the internet, through the mail. You can order them piece by piece and put them together. And children, doesn't matter what age, can get their hands on that gun, and then they can kill someone you love, or they can go on mass shootings like we've been seeing lately, when most of the killings have been done by ghost guns. No serial numbers, you can't trace them. You don't have to register them. It just doesn't make sense, and I just fear for our children today, because I'm going to tell you, Mr. Kearney, it seems like every time I hear about people being killed, especially our children, 10, 11, 12, 15, 17, by the use of ghost guns. If you notice on the news, they're always saying that was a good kid, honor roll student, someone doing the right things, but they were afraid to go to school because they were bullied or they were harassed or dressed in a negative way. And then all of a sudden, something happens, something clicks, and they're killed by a gun. But yet we don't have the nerve to oppose those who would put more ghost guns in our communities. I just think it's a tragic thing for America.
Yes, it is. You know, when 3D technology first came out, I think everybody was excited about it, because you could do a lot of things at home. You could design different items and products and just manufacture them at home. And I think even when they saw 3D guns came out, I think people looked at it more as a hobby. It's something just to do. You make a gun, use it a couple of times, and probably throw it away. But criminal minds think different. You know, kids think different. And they saw an opportunity to start using these guns, because it's hard to, even if you're in the airport, it's hard for a ghost gun to be found on you, because it's made out of plastic, unless you leave the bullets in there. You know, so I think it is a menace to society right now to have to deal with ghost guns. And I think the NRA, their thinking is, well, if you have some restrictions on ghost guns, then eventually you're going to have restrictions on other guns, and you're going to try to take your guns. Man, nobody's trying to kill your Second Amendment rights, okay? And that's what they don't realize.
You know, it has never been taken away your Second Amendment rights. Never has been. It's just one of those things where you don't need an assault weapon to go kill a deer. You know, when you can load up a magazine with countless bullets and go out and shoot a squirrel.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes no sense. So no one has said we're going to take away your guns. That has never been an issue, not politically, socially. Only in those organizations that are, in my opinion, more radical do they see the fact that taking away any one gun could lead to taking away all guns, and that has never been the issue. And when our politicians stand up for such thoughts, and you've seen them and I've seen them, then they're sending the wrong message to society. They should be standing up saying that is not the intent of legislation to make sure that we're not putting assault weapons on the street. That's not the intent, to take away your weapons. But instead, it seems like they buy into it.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me, because they're sending the wrong message to those that would use those weapons in a very, very negative way. And when you sow support for such, you know it's going to spread. People are going to spread that ill will by opposing legislation that would restrict those types of weapons being put on our streets and into the hands of kids. You know, when you stop and think about it as well, many of the kids that use those weapons, well, the weapons actually belong to the parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just the kids, you know, that's the problem. It's also the parents. Yeah. So we've got to, in my mind, get back to basics where common sense rules the day.
I agree. Yeah. Okay. So let's get to the excitement in the community that took place last week. The confirmation of Supreme Court Justice Designate Jackson. That was a great feeling to see that happen. It was gave people a lot of enthusiasm and hope that this country may be going in the right direction. Okay. But as we all know, that it was a nasty confirmation hearings, and we knew we would get the end result, and those guys on the other side of the aisle knew what the end result was going to be, but they were ruthless in their intimidation of her during those confirmation hearings, and it just shows how it showed how split the country is, and that's disappointing.
Well, if you really take a look at her record, and you create a justice qualification checklist, check by check, she is now the most qualified judge to soon to be justice that will serve on the Supreme Court. The most qualified. You're looking at a person that served at the appellate level. You're looking at a person that was a prosecutor. She has done those things to prepare her to sit as a justice on the Supreme Court, more so than any of the other appointees. But yet, she was the most challenged.
Yeah.
The most challenged. I mean, right up until the day of the confirmation, when you have elected officials to leave the room in order to delay her confirmation. And then just stick their head in the door and say, no. I mean, that's the sign of an uncivilized civilization.
Yeah.
Uncivilized. To me, it's deeply rooted in racism. It's deeply rooted in ignorance. When you're supposed to be questioning a justice on responsibility of a Supreme Court justice and questioning maybe some of her rulings and asking her, well, how do you feel about this, or how do you feel about that? But yet you talk about children's books, and you talk about things that are certainly outside the norms of a Supreme Court justice to address. It's just, you're right. It shows the stupidity of many of those elected to pick folks to serve on the Supreme Court. It just shows the stupidity. It shows the hate, the stupidity. It shows the mindset of an old antebellum America that has been resurrected recently by one of the top elected officials in this country. And even the ones that oppose it the most are immigrants to this country.
Yeah.
So it makes no sense.
Yeah.
To oppose immigration laws. It makes no sense to oppose the elevation of an African American to the Supreme Court. It makes no sense to oppose those things when you are the beneficiary of a system that would have held you down, but by some lucky stroke, you were able to rise to be a senator or a congressman.
Yeah,
it makes no sense.
And Tim Cruz needs to sit back and look at himself and look at where he came from.
Oh, is that who we're talking about? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Cause he's the one who was an immigrant. Coming from Canada to the United States.
Yeah, Russ Paul was the one that decided to leave the room.
Yeah, but you're right. It shows the ignorance. Now, the Democrats sat through 3 confirmation hearings, 3 votes. And the final votes, they never got up and walked out of the Senate. Okay?
Yeah.
They never did.
You're right.
They dealt with it. They dealt with the loss. But as soon as she was confirmed the other day, the Republicans, except for a man from Utah, Rodney. Everybody got up and walked out. Now, how childish and ignorant is that?
It's anti-American.
Yeah, it is.
If you want to live in a fascist country, you need to leave this country.
Yeah.
And I feel, I served in the military for 30 years. I supported and defended the Constitution of the United States, even when the Constitution didn't defend me. But at the same time, I knew my history. I knew what fascism looks like. I knew how Mussolini came to power. I knew how Hitler came to power. I knew how the fascists and the communists came to power. And it was by exactly what we saw happening in our country.
Yeah.
When you stop and you take a look at fake news, ban the news people, kick them out of the room, burn the books, take the books out of our schools. That's how fascism and Mussolini began. So I would really ask every civilized person in this nation or on this call to go back and look at the development of those authoritarian governments, because what you saw in the last 4 years of our presidency was exactly the playbook of Mussolini. And so that's why the press began to use such things as fascism, because they understood what was happening. And when you start taking the advice of an authoritarian government over your own FBI and CIA, then you're really selling America down the drain.
Yes.
And when our politicians stand up and they support such a thing, and now we see those the GOP party mainly supporting that ideology, you're right, America's divided, but I think that we have common sense. The majority would have the common sense to say we didn't get this way through an authoritarian government. We got this way standing on the shoulders of those that profess democracy.
Yeah.
That died for it.
And one of the things you have with the Democratic Party, yes, we do have some very far left progressives in the Democratic Party, but they won't stoop to the point where they'll say, let's take over the government, okay?
Yeah.
But the Republican Party has gone so far to the right with their ideas that it's a very big split in the Republican Party. And they have a strong section of that Republican Party that wants to take the government down so they can run the country the way they want to run it, regardless. And they don't care. You take a Marjorie Greene, as stupid as she is and ignorant she is, she doesn't care what happens, okay? As long as she's able to be part of that play, be part of that team that runs and controls America.
You're right. And you take a look at Liz Cheney. She is someone, her father was an advocate for democracy. She's an advocate for democracy. But when you stop and you turn around, today it was announced that she has raised more money than any of those running for her Senate, her congressional seat that is being endorsed by those preaching anti-democratic philosophy. And she's raised more money. And, she's the one that was banned by the Republican Party in so many ways. She was, what is the word? She was censored. And, but yet people are seeing what's going on. They may not stand up in front of the camera and says, oh, I'll oppose this. Because it really, one side can take down our country, but she's making a stand. And so I think that silent majority speaks loudly.
Yes.
And that's how when we look at the ban on guns, on ghost guns, and those that oppose outlawing them, that is to me, an attack on our democracy and what we stand for. It's not taking away your Second Amendment rights.
Right.
When we see those that oppose a black woman who was the most qualified justice we will have on the Supreme Court from rising to that level, then that's an attack on our democracy.
Yes, it is.
Where Dr. King said we should be judged by the content of our character. But it goes to show you that everybody's not buying into that philosophy.
Yeah. I have one of my colleagues is a Republican donor. And when I say he's a Republican donor, he's a big time donor. And so he knows all those guys, Ted Cruz and all those people. And, he hangs out in that circle. And we were talking. One day we were talking. I just said to him, I said, you all, because he's always saying when they get in the room with the big time donors, none of them can stand Trump. Okay, and they don't want him to run or nothing like that again. But then I tell him, okay, in a room, you all seem to agree that y'all don't want this clown around you all no more. I said, but why are y'all so scared to come out in public and say that? I said, you and I would have the conversation. You would have it with your big boys, but y'all won't come out and say it. Because y'all scared of him. You all just hope he's going to go away and die, go up in the corner and die, or do something. I said, but y'all won't just come out and cream him.
I have a term for that, and that's called hypocritical leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And it's as I said, authoritarian government, it was the hypocrites that allowed it to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It's one thing to sit in the back room, but if you're not willing to fight for your country, then that's hypocritical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it is. And, today I was thinking that these right-wing evangelicals think they are, they riding the gravy train to heaven and everything, that they're gonna be in heaven before the Jews get in heaven. But I was thinking about this, okay? If Jesus was living today and walking our streets, he would be an activist, okay? He would be seen as an activist. He would be seen as someone that wouldn't like to be associated with Republicans or anything like that. And I
liberal.
Yeah, and I said, he would Jesus probably would be a progressive. He'd probably be a far left progressive because the things that he did during his time. Yeah, I'm saying to myself, why can't they see that Jesus wouldn't agree to nothing that these Republicans are doing, but because of him wanting to help people, heal people, take care of people, something Republican parties don't do or won't do, then he identifies more as a Democrat or liberal as anything else.
Christian teachings and religious teachings, even Confucianism, has taught us, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. But when you are hypocritical in your thought, when you support those with racist intent, when you don't stand up for the values of your religion, for the very principles that they were founded on, then you're not really, in my opinion, practicing religious theology.
Mm-hmm.
You're practicing the worshiping of man over what we have learned throughout the ages, that through our religious teachings, that it's not the worshiping of man that's going to get you to that level after you pass away, that you want to be at. You've got to remember what your religion was founded upon.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look at those that call themselves religious leaders and they stand on the side of injustice, then I question their leadership as religious leaders. Even when you know that things are wrong, even when you know that the person that you are supporting has a checkered past, I'll just say the great degradation of women, the free enterprising schemes that they have gone through in a capitalist society, and yet you vow to support that person, then I question, what is your intent? Is it to lead your flock to heaven, or is it to lead to greater resources in your kitty? What is it about? So I just question all of that. I don't blame anybody and I don't judge anyone, but I do this. I do question things because, just like Buddha, he did not quite understand what truth meant. So he had to go out on his own trip, per se, to find out what reality was, so that it would help him arrive to truth. And once he saw the death and the destruction and things of that nature in the streets, he arrived at what was an inner truth, where he could determine what was right, what was wrong, and how to achieve those things that were good. And So I just question those that don't question themselves. They always said you got to be your own worst critic. Well, who are you really supporting and why? But my thing has always been to try to arrive at truth that's going to give me peace, so that someday I might be able to hear job well done.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very amazing, how I was reading, somebody had posted something on Facebook with one of those Republican evangelical zealots had made a statement that the Christians, the evangelicals, right-wing evangelicals run this state. I forgot what state it was, and that Jesus controls everything. And I'm sitting there looking, I say, if y'all really read your Bible and read about Jesus' life during his 3 years of ministry here on earth, they will see that he was not nowhere near being what you all picture him to be.
Yeah, he was, like you said earlier, he would be considered a liberal, a radical, too far on the left to listen to. And they would have persecuted him today, just like they did back in his time.
Yes.
But, if you're a person that stands up for what you believe in, like Dr. Du Bois said, W.B. Du Bois said, you have to stand tall to be heard. There was a time in this country where you respected that. Yeah. Unless it was a black man, then you didn't respect it. But I call it the John Wayne theory. John Wayne never put on a military uniform, never fought anywhere except on the movies. See, he's the example for those that believe in strength and fighting for what you believe. See, but I look at it a different way. We have real heroes in this world.
Oh yes, we do.
Stood up for what they believe. Dr. King was one of them. Malcolm X was one, and I can go on further and further. Yeah. President Johnson was, civil rights law, voting rights law, stood up to support the minority community. Those are your real heroes. We should be valuing that type of action in a democracy. Yeah. Instead of trying to shoot it down and degrade it. But that's how we arrived at the change we see today, by people standing up, being radical, and if you want to call it that, being liberal, if you want to call it that, being progressive, if you want to call it that. And I'm going to tell you, progressive is not a bad word. No. Because either you got progressive where you're moving forward to do things better. It was progressive to create a vaccine against COVID-19. It was that progressive thought. Yeah. Or you can take off your mask, be conservative, sit back home, say, I'm okay, nothing's going to happen, and go ahead and die. Yeah. So I tell people all the time, progressivism is not a bad thing. No, it's not. It got us to where we're at now. There would be no Revolutionary War if it wasn't for progressivism. That's right. That's right. Very true. Very true. Well, Dr. Dula, as always, I have enjoyed talking to you tonight. I enjoy our conversations. So you get me wound up. Then we have man. I got to bring you on more often. But so I have really enjoyed this because you and I think along the same lines and stuff, and we still definitely have a lot of work to do in this country. And you think when you thought we were moving forward, it seemed like we're going backpedaling because of one person that has railed up the ignorance among many people. And it's really changed this country and it's taken this country back. So again, I appreciate you being on with me tonight and sit down and have a short conversation. Now tomorrow night for you, political junkies that want to talk more politics tomorrow night, come on back to meet me on Real World News TV, where I'm co-hosting with my other co-host, Sharon Tappett. We come on at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, 5:30 Pacific Time. And we're going to be looking more at the selection of Justice Jackson as a Supreme Court Justice. And the basic theme tomorrow night is going to be, have we reached the mountaintop yet? Okay. And because we still have a lot of issues, even though we've moved forward with selecting the first
African American woman to be part of the Supreme Court. Have we reached the top of the mountain yet? As Dr. Martin Luther King said, have we gotten there yet? And I don't know. I really don't know. So come back and join us tomorrow night on Real World News TV at 8:30 p.m. Final words, Dr. Dula.
Well, I have to tune in tomorrow night because I can tell you, I think we're halfway up the mountain. Okay. I always tell people I came up on the rough side of the mountain, but I'm still stumbling because I see things that make me think. So I have to tune back in because we need to come together, stand tall together, and to support one another so that we can get over that mountaintop.
That's right. Okay, everyone. I want to thank the viewers for listening to us tonight. Always comment if you have comments, or go to the Facebook page, Urban Sentinel Lab, and leave your comments. Again, I want to thank Dr. Dula for being part of the conversation tonight. He always brings some good stuff to the table. I tell you, he's a smart man. I feel blessed to be in his presence.
Oh my goodness.
So Dr. Dula, you take care, and we'll be talking. Everyone else, good night. Enjoy yourselves this week. Be safe. Remember what this week is all about, okay? And enjoy yourselves and take care of yourselves and pay it forward. Good night. Peace out.